Con Stathopoulos and Josh Phegan come together in an incredible podcast, Grow, Scale, Master.
An energetic approach to drive progress, master skills, build strengths and put the strategy back into rapid business and personal success.
Backed by real-world experience in rapid scaling to playing the long-term game of business, it's the story of all the lessons learned on the journey to mastery.
Be inspired, renew your energy and chase the future with Grow, Scale, Master.
Legacy and knowing when to go. Con, this is probably one of the most important conversations because they say that, great exits are planned 15 years in advance and bad exits are planned now.
Yeah.
And so when you start to think a little bit about it, what is long-term success in business?
Ooh, that's a hard one to answer, right? Because everyone's going to have a different view. But for me, long-term success in business is the ability to be able to perform at a certain level consistently. Having the ability to be able to impact as many people as you possibly can, learning as much as you can on that journey, not earning just as much, but learning just as much. And I think the ability to be able to keep your reputation intact.
So sometimes I look at people and they want the business to have a legacy. We created that. We want to hand it down to multi-generations.
Yeah.
Sometimes people are about equity. So I was able to go and put this money in and I turn it into that.
Yes.
Sometimes people are about control.
Yep.
I'm in control. And that's what determines my success. And then some people are literally in a position of ego and ego fulfillment.
Yeah.
So that literally, that's who I am and don't you know who I am and all of those types of things, right? But the interesting conversation is that when you think about long-term success in business, we probably never ever start with the plan of exiting. And I mean to say, I never planned the start of this business that I was going to exit.
Yep.
Like, mate, I still haven't worked out if we've entered yet. But the whole idea is that literally we're just going to have a massive go and see where this thing goes. Yes. And that's the difference around entrepreneurial energy. But I think that the interesting thing is that is it about a conversation of knowing what the top is and then getting out? Now we've seen some people that have exited, major businesses in the residential real estate sector, and you kind of think, geez, I wonder if they knew how their exit happened now, if they would have planned that differently 10 years ago, knowing what was going to happen. So they hoped that the kids were going to take over and they didn't. They hoped that the brand was going to continue on, but it didn't. They hoped that they were still going to be a director in the business, but it's now morphed into a completely different business. And what's really, really clear to me is that literally you don't have to exit either. My dad will tell you this story. He retired at 55. He came back at 60.
Yeah.
And he said to me, Josh, I aged 20 years in that 5 years.
Yeah.
We got him back listing and selling residential real estate. He's still doing it today. And the benefit of that is that literally he absolutely loves it, but he works more lifestyle hours.
Yeah.
So I'm saying to him, hey, you don't have to push as hard each day. And if you want to have a siesta, if it's a nice sunny day, you can do that. But you know what? The other days he's actually in there and he's working. But you know what? You can't go from a purpose-driven life to zero purpose all of a sudden when work was a major part of that.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I saw my father did that when he retired. He did the same thing. And Mum got him renovating every single room of the house to keep him moving and not getting fat and, lazy and complacent.
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting one. I definitely agree with the sentiment of building it to be able to sell it, to exit. You need to have the end in mind.
And that should be done every day, right? Because
Correct.
If something happened to you, touch wood, then the business needs to be saleable.
Absolutely, totally agree. So you've got to be prudent, you've got to be diligent with that planning. But when's the right time to get out of the top? I don't know, mate. Like for me, I feel like if I'm reflecting in our business, we're 4 years into what could be a 15, 20, 30-year journey. And the reality is there an exit mechanism? Sure, we've structured our companies and our entities in a way, but the exit could be very, very different. So it could be a straight sale. It could be paring down to partners. It could be retaining a little bit of equity and, moving to a board type seat, or it could be just doing what actually keeps you on purpose. And I think that's the key, and you nailed that with your dad. It's about being purpose, turning up every day with purpose. But at the same time, I personally right now couldn't see me exiting our organisation because we have so much to do and so much to achieve. And it's not the financial stuff, it's how good can we be? And I think once we've been able to tick that off, maybe that might change things.
So Con, I remember the first time that it ever happened to me when someone rang me and said, we want to buy your business.
Oh, really? Wow.
And I've
had that a few times.
I never thought about that exit.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Did you get excited or?
No, so what I did is I got on the phone and I rang a great mentor.
Yeah.
There's a guy by the name of Paul Breen. And I said, Paul, I got to tell you, someone just rang and they've said that they want to buy my business. They said it's going to be a phenomenal opportunity and blah, 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 blah. He said, Josh. I said, yeah. He goes, man, I'm going to tell you. He said, I want you to replace the word opportunity. And then he put a couple of words that we probably can't say on the podcast. That every single time says they've got a really big opportunity, what they're actually saying is that they've got a really big problem that they need to solve, that by buying you is a cheap solution.
Yep.
And he said, you know what? There's nothing you can't offer them in terms of consulting. Go and consult to fix the problem. Don't let them buy your business to fix the problem.
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice.
And I think that this is the interesting conversation, is that what it actually gets you, though, is that literally, sometimes people go, oh my God, I'm just going to exit. And they exit overnight, but they actually really haven't thought about it. And so when you're thinking about this legacy piece, what I always know is that you got to keep on pushing for growth.
Yes.
So you need to be growing in some way, either personally or inside of the business, or what the business is doing next, to keep it fresh and keep it energetic. But you got to, stick to the core of what a great business is all about. And what we understand is that time is limited, but opportunity is not.
Correct.
How many rent rolls have you been offered in the last year versus how many rent rolls were you offered in the 3 years prior?
I've been offered 7 or 8.
Yeah.
And that's probably the exact number in the last 3 years.
And so the interesting conversation is that what you're actually seeing is that there's a business cycle, which means exit because cost of capital was high.
Spot on.
In the previous business cycle, no one was selling because everyone thought was
post-COVID, everyone made so much money. So they thought, you know what, I'll just stay on for another year or two.
And so this is that whole conversation, is that, if the opportunity is not limited, then you've got to define your north and go for it.
Yeah.
So touch wood, but if you died today and you turned around and you said, okay, great, what's the last 4 years been like for you? What's the last 17 years been like for me? Mate, I can absolutely tell you, I would not have regretted a single minute of the things that we've actually done.
Totally agree.
We've had the throttle absolutely maxed. Haven't hit the brakes. It's been unbelievable to do.
Yeah, and even when you've made those mistakes, right, along the way, they're all the things that you look back on now. And I look at all the mistakes we've made, and we've made a lot of them, right? But I look at those and go, they're all part of the stacking or the layering of your growth and of the success story. Mm-hmm. So even though, I think sometimes people can get very disheartened very quickly and make snap decisions. I look at my business partners that have sold their businesses and merged into our organisation. They haven't done it because they're fallen out of love with real estate. They've done it because they've chosen life first instead of business first. And I think we've got some really good examples of why people have done that. They've been able to get their life back, their time back.
It's actually much funner.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say. They're actually performing at a higher level with more time and more balance, and they're doing it on their term.
But, Con, I look at it. I walk into one of your training rooms. All of your teams are completely already set up. The girls are there. They've got the balloons. Things are happening. There's music playing. There's energy inside of that room. Everything's actually already set up. The name badges are there. People are getting coffees and on their way in. Everything's done, and it feels like you're walking into an unbelievable culture.
Yes.
And I've walked into other training rooms where it's just me, which is not bad, but it's not that. It's in terms of there's no pre-preparation. And so that brings me to that whole idea, is it's the power of the team around you. So you can have a really sustaining business if you have really good quality people around you, and dare I say it, that you continue to allow that team to evolve, and which may actually mean changing some key personnel inside of that team over time.
Yeah.
Because literally, there's the old school saying, the people that got you here are not the people that take you there. As long as people are prepared to go on the journey, read the book, have the conversation, start to think differently, evolve and grow as an individual, it's great to be around that.
I totally agree. I mean, we've got 2 people that spring to mind in our organisation, Emma Duff and Chiara Donamega. I hope I haven't butchered that, Chiara, but they start off in our sales support role, and now Chiara's moved into a sales operations role, and Emma's moved into a HR people and culture role, and it's been incredible to see their growth. We thought that there'd be a massive gap left in their previous role, but it's allowed people to come in and actually grow into that whilst they can grow into their new role, which takes pressure off the business, which actually makes the people in our organisation feel like they've got better level of service, faster speed, all the things that are actually going to help people on that journey. So I totally agree. But we said it in the last podcast, right? We said about spending time taking a notepad and pen and actually writing down all the things that you need to do. One of those could be, what's the team that I need to have around me to allow me to be able to let go a little bit to be able to grow?
And this is that whole thing, is that vision and the energy that it creates.
Yes.
And I know one of the very unique features of what you have done and what people will tell me about you when they talk in market is that oh man, he's unbelievable at helping you to discover and reset and connect with a vision that's really powerful and energizing. And I think, wow, that's an incredible skill set. But it's you set the vision for your own life.
Correct.
So sometimes I wonder if people exit businesses because they have forgotten that they're the ones who actually set the vision.
Spot on.
And, there's an old school saying is this whole thing is that, it will be hard, it will be difficult. When you realize that life is hard and difficult, it becomes infinitely easier. And the next conversation on that is expect that there will be obstacles. Now, we speak about the hero's journey. The hero can't be successful if they're not even going to remotely face some level of challenge.
Correct.
So you got to think that they're nearly going to die. And that's the tension in Woody.
Toy Story. That's right.
But what I want you to think about is that literally what will you be remembered for?
Yeah.
Because like literally, if this is the last day here on earth, man, I can't wait in some respects to turn around at that moment and see what will people say about the era of when Josh Phegan was in training. What was that like? What was that experience like during that time? What was he like as a person? And this is that difference of the eulogy values versus the resume values.
I totally agree with that. I mean, I was at a conference a couple of months ago and someone asked a question, and the question was, what would your business need to look like if you made the decision to stay with it for the rest of your life right now? Mm-hmm. And it got me thinking about all the things. So if I could only do what I'm doing right now, what decisions would I need to make to be able to make sure that I've got this legacy, and what would I be remembered for in terms of being able to help people? So I think it's a really good question to be asked. Experiences that rapidly shaped you.
One of my favorite quotes of all time is from Phil Knight, the founder of Nike. And he says, you measure yourself by the number of people who measure themselves by you.
I love that.
And it just makes me think that, Josh, you are a role model. So be a role model.
Yeah, correct.
And that's not egotistical, but make the right decisions, do the right things, don't get involved in things you shouldn't have.
Yep.
Mate, I'm leaving any venue by like 9 o'clock. I just don't think good things happen after 9 o'clock, right? Like it's just don't get involved in the dangerous stuff. And I think the most important part is that that's a really important thing for the role that you actually play in life, is that you are the straight ship, the solid one. And even in choppy waters, you can guide people through some very difficult circumstances, and that's your lot in life. And it's like it's a set of God-given talents, is your ability to remain calm in the middle of some pretty average storms.
Yeah.
And if you understand that, it will make a lot of difference in your ability to really get out there and make sure that you've got a lasting legacy.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think for me, mate, is escape time. So what's a micro break look like? And I'm not talking about a holiday. I'm talking about a break that gives you the ability to be able to refocus your vision. And so what it is that you're trying to create. So in our world, we talk about business plans and life plans. So when was the last time we recalibrated? It's like a software upgrade on your phone. Sometimes you wake up overnight and it's already been updated. When was the last time we gave ourselves the ability to have a software upgrade? Okay, and I think those escape times, those micro breaks are critical of being able to put things back into order. Almost like a defrag, if anyone can remember that your computer used to do.
What was that? No.
Oh, don't do that to me. My kids say that to me all the time.
But that whole conversation is that the ability to provide respite in one's mind.
Yes.
At any given time.
Yeah, I love that.
Something that's changing your view.
There's this whole idea like jobs to be done was the formula, and it was about this: how do I get more jobs done so the customer actually sees significant value? Now, one of the things that happened to me, it was kind of crazy. Obviously, after Blueprint, I start looking around for things to do, and what's quite funny is if you have a look at any cars or vehicles that I've bought over time, they usually come due for rego at the end of August. So obviously I buy them in and around the end of Blueprint because I got nothing else to do after landing the big event for the year. Anyway, this year was pretty full on. No, I didn't buy anything. This year was really full on, and I was like, and in New South Wales you have to do a roadworthy once a vehicle hits over 5 years.
That's right.
And so I've got a motorbike here in Sydney, and I was like, I haven't done the roadworthy and it's going to run out of rego. I was like, oh no. So anyway, I rang up the normal Harley Davidson dealership, and they said, they've closed down. And I was like, they're gone. They've left. They're out your way, out towards Concord.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh no. And so then there's a new Harley Davidson dealership that's actually been set up at Auburn.
Yes.
And I was like, it's only an extra 2 stops down the freeway.
Yeah.
I was like, I know where it is. I'm like, oh man, from my place to there and back, that's like an hour and 20 of my time. It just didn't work with what was happening logistically of where I was doing work. And so I rang the guy and I was like, oh, hey, man, I want to get my motorbike service. He goes, oh, great. And where are you based out of? I said, I'm Balmain. He goes, okay, excellent. And would you like us to pick it up tomorrow?
Oh, they came and picked up the bike.
I was like, yeah, that'd be great. And he goes, yeah, good. He goes, and how long have we got with it? I said, as long as you need. I don't need it immediately. He goes, no problems. If we picked it up on Friday, we'd have it back to you on Tuesday. We'll just do the full service, make all that happen. I said, yeah, that'd be great. I said, look, I'm actually not going to be here. I'm going to be away, but I've got an amazing lady in my life called Mrs. Packer, and you can ring her, and she's got keys to my house, and she can meet you. So I was away down in Melbourne doing work. Mrs. Packer opened up the garage. The Harley guys came and grabbed the motorbike. They went and serviced the motorbike, cleaned it, brought the motorbike back. I paid the servicing fees, all the above. Mrs. Packer met them. The bike's dropped back in. I've turned back in on the Friday night, none the wiser that bike is fully serviced, roadworthy, and ready to rock and roll.
Wow, I love that.
And so incredible. This is that thing is that literally the customer's prepared to pay.
Yes.
Now, whether or not it would happen to be included in that service with them as their first time as a customer experience, but whether or not it's a $50, $100, $300,
you would have done it anyway.
I would have done it anyway.
Yeah.
And this is the big thing, is that literally what you've got to do is that literally you've got to learn how to identify what are areas that people actually really find frustrating. So as an example on that, okay, great. When someone moves into a new property, we're going to rekey all of the locks.
Yep.
And we're going to get that done for you, so you've got one key.
Yeah, my master key.
And just so you know, Con, we'll keep a spare at the office so we can let ourselves in for free appraisal. But that basic idea is about doing things in a way that the customers really care about it.